Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. I am Psychedelics, your host. Very happy to be here with you on a Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for being here with us. You're going to be happy you came because Jimmy Akin is our guest both hours today, and you can ask him anything you want. 888-318-7884 is the number, whether you're Catholic or not. Whatever your question is, they're all welcome when Jimmy is here. 888-318-7884. Jimmy, of course, is our senior apologist here. He's the man behind Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, and he's the author of a brand new book, Evidence for Christ, How We Know That Jesus is the Messiah. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello, Psychedelics. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for being here with us. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, and I'm going to ask you about dinosaurs. Everybody loves dinosaurs. Okay. Kids love dinosaurs. Adults love dinosaurs. Probably you love dinosaurs. I know I do.
Oh, yeah.
But is there a problem? Do they pose a problem for Catholic belief? That is, there don't seem to be any dinosaurs in the Bible, and the fossils would suggest that the Earth is really, 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 really old. So do they conflict with Catholic beliefs in any way? And I said I'm going to ask you that question because before we get to that question, I'm going to ask folks if they will support us, because it is time for the first hour of our spring pledge drive. And I'll give out that number. And we've got 9 of our colleagues waiting online on the phone lines at the moment. And that number is 888-291-8000. We come to you just 4 times a year, and we just take 6 hours to raise the funds we need for the next 3 months. And we don't even take all of those. Like I said, we'll get to that dinosaur question in just a second. 888-291-8000. Jimmy?
And we want to make sure that we let people know what we've got going on in this drive. As you said, we only do this 4 times a year. We really try to keep the fundraising minimal, but that means when we do fundraise, we do need to hear from you. Right now, we've got 10 of our fellow employees on the phone or available to take your call, and so far, none of them are on the line. So we've got wide open lines. You can call in right now and make your pledge. The number to call is 888-291-8000. Once again, 888-291-8000. And we have some exciting matches for people. Cy, why don't you tell us about those?
Well, the first major match is that this hour we have a $20,000 match. That means every gift is automatically doubled up to $20,000. You give $100 right now, it's going to be $200, and on and on. And that's good because that we have that $20,000 match, because that's our goal for the hour. And if we reach our goal each hour, then we will be fully funded for the next 3 months. There's also a second match today, and that is for anybody who can give a one-time gift of $500, or for anyone who can give a monthly pledge of $20. We have a donor who will match that again. So just say you are able to give $500 at 888-291-8000. Really, today that becomes $1,500. You can also go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, or just text the word Catholic to 24365. As Jimmy said, lots of our colleagues on the line, 13 now ready to take your calls, 888-291-8000. And one of the things that we love to be able to do is when those lines start to fill up, we can stop asking you to call and just go right to the questions and let Jimmy do what we'd really rather have Jimmy Akin doing, answering questions. Pick up that phone if you could, 888-291-8000.
And before we get to the first question, which is from you, Psychedelics, I want to make sure that I have our matching structure straight in my head so that the audience and you and I will all be on the same page. So yes. The basic match we're working on is we're trying to raise $20,000 in this hour.
Yes.
And so that's our overall goal for the hour, and any funds you contribute will get matched towards that. So if you give let's say $100, that becomes $200 for us, so it's doubled. Then we have a second match, which is if you're able to give $500 or more, then it will be matched again. So if you give $500, it would become $1,000 because of our overall $20,000 match, but then it's going to become
Yes.
$1,500. So it's tripled because of the second $500 or more one-time gift amount. Then we have a third match, which is if you make a new, so if you're not currently a supporter, maybe you've been one in the past, maybe you've never been one, but if you're not currently a supporter and you give $20 or more per month, then, and we really want those monthly ones because that's a steady base of support that we can count on going forward. That makes it much easier for us to know how much how many resources we're going to have going forward if it comes in a regular monthly way. So we really want those monthly
Yes.
gifts. But if you make $20 or more, it'll also get matched a second time. So what that means is if you donate $20 a month, that would work out, and loads of people can afford $20 a month, but that would work out to $240 in the course of a year. That would get doubled because of our overall $20,000 match and become $480. And then it would actually be copied again and end up being tripled. Just like the $500 match or more gets tripled, the $20 or more new gifts will also get tripled. And so those two, the $500 or more one-time gifts, you can be a current donor for that, or you can be a new donor, or if you donate monthly $20 or more and you're not currently a supporter, that also will get tripled. So everybody gets at least doubled. And if you do one of our two alternate matches, you'll get tripled, which helps us out even more. So we really do need to hear from folks. The number is 888 291 8000. Once again, it's 888 291 8000. And we want to thank you when you make your gifts. So, Psychedelic, why don't you tell us about the thank yous we have to offer folks this time?
I'll tell you what, if you can, that we've got basically two, and one of them is if you give $50, we're going to send you the beautiful new book, and really a very much needed book from Robert Grieving, The Apostolic of Courtesy, How to Save Souls and Change the World Through the Power of Manners. That's for a $50 gift. And for those of you who are able to do that $500 gift, in addition to it being tripled, you'll get that book, The Apostolic of Courtesy, but you also get the fantastic new book from Jimmy Akin, Evidence for Christ, How We Know that Jesus is the Messiah. Both of those gifts are yours if you can come in at the $500 level. There have been phone calls. I'm very grateful for it. There are 10 lines open right now. Perfect time to call, 888 291 8000. Also a perfect time to get Jimmy to answer that question. What about dinosaurs? Are they a problem for a Catholic?
Well, so you, in previewing the question before you actually asked it just now, you built in a lot more elements for me to address. So I
Okay.
want to make sure I don't forget anything.
Okay.
Now, the fundamental answer is no. Dinosaurs are not a problem for Catholic belief. Now, there are different approaches to the book of Genesis that are found in different Christian circles. For example, in Protestantism, there is a common approach. It's not universal in Protestantism by any means, but there's a common approach called young earth creationism, which holds that Genesis, the early chapters of Genesis, are to be taken very literally, that the earth was literally created in 6 days, that there was a literal global flood, and things like that. And even people who adhere to young earth creationism, and there are some Catholics who do, they don't have a problem with the idea of dinosaurs.
Oh.
They'll simply say, yeah, God created the dinosaurs, and some of them even got taken on the ark in the flood. And if you go to like Ken Ham's Noah's Ark Discovery Educational Amusement Center and you visit his life-size ark, they'll have like dinos there, and they believe that they were on the ark, although they've since all died out. So even people who have very literal interpretations of Genesis, they don't have a problem with the idea of there being dinosaurs. They just don't view them as having existed millions of years ago. But that's a minority position. It's a minority position, especially in the Catholic Church, because the magisterium of the Catholic Church has looked at the texts of early Genesis and concluded that they incorporate a lot of elements that are figurative rather than literal,
Hmm.
and that they were meant by the original author to be taken figuratively. In fact, I just on the Jimmy Akin podcast just this week, I had a look at what the church's approach to the first 11 chapters of Genesis is, and I'll be doing more work on this in the future. But if you look in the Catechism, it's quite clear in how the church's approach to these texts is. In paragraph 337, it says, God himself created the visible world in all its richness, diversity, and order. Scripture presents the work of the Creator symbolically as a succession of 6 days of divine work concluded by the rest of the seventh day. So that's the magisterium's interpretation of the 6 days of Genesis 1, that they are not meant to be taken literally, that they symbolically represent the work of the Creator. And I think there's good reasons for that. I've talked about this previously, but if you look carefully at the 6 days, they happen in two movements. In the first 3 days, God structures the world. He separates day from night on day one. He separates the sky and the sea on day two, and he separates the waters of the sea on day three so that dry land appears. Then, in the second 3 days, he goes back over those same realms and populates them. So he populates the day and the night with the sun, the moon, and the stars. On day four, on day five, he populates the sky and the sea with birds and fish. And then on day six, he populates the land with land animals and man. And so this is a very clearly structured literary account to convey what the creator did. What the author is trying to communicate is not God did this and then 72 hours later he did this. What he's trying to communicate is God made the light and the darkness. He made the sky and the sea. He made the dry land. He made the sun, the moon, and the stars. He made the birds and the fish. He made the land animals and man. He's the creator of everything. But this is fitted into the 7-day Hebrew week with the seventh day as a day of rest, where God's finished his creation. So this is really clearly, to my mind, signaling the
Hmm.
audience that this is not to be taken literally, especially because the ancients knew as well as we do that it's the sun that makes it day, and it's the absence of the sun that makes it night. So, how do you have a day night cycle for the first 3 days when the sun isn't even created until day four? That's a pretty big clue. So that's what the church has said about the days of creation. Now, it doesn't require you to hold that view, but it is the view that the church's magisterium teaches. There's also another passage, it's a little bit earlier in the Catechism, that has a bearing on this question, and it's paragraph 283. It says, the question about the origins of the world and of man has been the object of many scientific studies, which have splendidly enriched our knowledge of the age and dimensions of the cosmos, the development of life forms, and the appearance of man. So here, the Catechism is referring to standard scientific studies, which have concluded things like the Earth's 4.6 billion years ago, the cosmos is about 13.8 billion years old, it's 96 billion light years across, and things like that. So here, the Catechism, without teaching it as a matter of doctrine, is taking a favorable attitude towards the findings of modern science. And this goes along with the church's interpretation of the 6 days of creation as teaching what the Creator did in a literary way rather than in a literal way. So you take all that into account and apply it to dinosaurs, and well, if the Earth is, as the scientific studies indicate, 4.6 billion years old, well, that gives a lot of dinosaur time in there. And we
Yeah.
don't have to collapse them into human history. We can follow the scientific evidence and say, yeah, they lived tens of millions of years ago, and they all died out between 60 and 70 million years ago, which is actually good for us because it left the planet clear for us. And it wouldn't be so fun living with T-Rexes running around. They were as intelligent as chimps, they hunted as packs, and they were very deadly. So it's kind of good for us that they're not around, as cool as they are. Um, you also mentioned, so there's no problem with, on either model, there's no problem of having dinosaurs with Catholic belief. You also mentioned one other element. You mentioned dinosaurs not being in the Bible, and my response to that would be, who says?
Really?
There, yeah,
Okay.
there are various monsters that are mentioned in the Bible, like Behemoth and Leviathan, and there's the dragon in Revelation. And so the question is, what's behind this monster imagery? Well, okay, we in our Western culture in the 1800s dug up a bunch of bones and classified them as dinosaurs, but people have been digging up bones for all of human history. There'll be bones in a cliff, and the side of the cliff will fall off, and there'll be the bones.
Right.
And so humans have actually been finding dinosaur bones all throughout human history. And we know this because we have records of it. We have records, for example, of ancient Greeks and Romans finding dinosaur bones, and they assumed correctly there must have been big monstrous creatures here at some point in the past.
Yeah.
And because that's what the bones would suggest. There's actually a famous story from St. Augustine. Now he was from North Africa, which is on the Mediterranean coast, and he recounts being on the beach one day and he found a giant tooth. He said it was like 50 times the size of a normal tooth, and he assumed it came from some great ancient giant thing.
Yeah.
And he had probably found a dinosaur bone. So people have been finding dinosaur bones all through human history. That's going to include the ancient Israelites, and that tells us the probable basis of the imagery for monsters that we find in the Bible, like Behemoth and Leviathan and dragons and things like that. The ancient Hebrews probably saw dinosaur bones and imagined what those animals would be like, and then incorporated them into their writings as literary motifs.
There you go, Jimmy. Thank you very much. What a great and comprehensive answer on dinosaurs. I very much appreciate it. I was enjoying the answer very much. You know what else I was enjoying was people called during that and gave. So we're off to a good start. I'm very grateful for those who have picked up the phone and called. If you're just joining us, what I'm referring to is we are in the first hour of our spring pledge drive. We just take 6 hours each quarter to ask you for your support. And as you can tell, we don't use most of the hour for that. We allow Jimmy or whoever is the apologist for the day to do their work. I've got folks on the line ready to ask Jimmy their questions. So I'll just give out the phone number one more time. We have a $20,000 dollar for dollar match this hour for any gift in any amount until that $20,000 is used up. We have a second match for anybody who can give $500 or more in a one-time gift. That will be matched a second time. So your $500 becomes $1,500 to us because of generous donors. And a third match, if you are able to make a $20 a month pledge or more, a monthly pledge, we have a donor who will triple monthly pledges of $20 or more, or who will give us that second match. So your monthly pledge is tripled. So if you can make a monthly pledge of $20, $30, maybe $50, maybe $100, you can have that money tripled right now at 888-291-8000.
And I want to give folks an update on where we are right now. We're about a third of the way through this hour, and we are also about a third of the way towards our $20,000 goal for this hour. So we're right on target. We do need you to keep calling, though, because we have 16 Catholic Answers employees waiting to hear from you, and currently none of them are on the line. They're just sitting at their desks waiting for your call. So you'll get right through. The number to call is 888-291-8000. Once again, it's 291-8000, and want to say a special thank you to Fidelity Trust, from a Fidelity Trust from Wayne in South Dakota, who has donated $1,000. That's going to get tripled. That's going to become $3,000 for
Thank you,
us.
Wayne.
And so thank you very much, Wayne. It is important that we get some of those larger gifts. We're going to need them in order to meet our overall drive goal. And I know sometimes people need to check with the husband or check with the wife or check with the banker or the stockbroker or whoever before they're able to make a larger donation. So I'm letting you know today, on our first day of the drive, we will need to have larger donations as we go along. So please start doing your check-in, and there will still be time to make those larger donations later in the drive, either tomorrow or Thursday. We also need donations of every amount, though. And if you know you can make a donation right now, please give us a call, 888-291-8000. Once again, 888-291-8000.
You can also go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Let's take one of those calls for Jimmy. Thank you to those who have called with their questions. We want to make sure we get you on as well. Andrew is in Toronto, Canada. Welcome, Andrew. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy.
Sure. My question is, I was reading Why We're Catholic by Trent Horn, and basically he addressed a ridiculous objection, which was the Pope is the Antichrist. But he spoke about the Book of Revelation in an interesting way. It almost sounded to me like he's saying the Catholic view is that the Book of Revelation describes an event that already happened, and it's not describing future events, because he said something along the lines of, like, scholars believe that John was referring to the persecution of early Christians, not to future events. So, like, what is the Catholic position on the Book of Revelation?
Well, I haven't read the passage you're talking about, so I can't really comment on that, but I can comment on the Book of Revelation. And there's not a single mandated interpretation of the Book of Revelation. Just like with most of the Bible, the church doesn't have an official commentary on it. As long as you don't violate a teaching of the faith, scholars are allowed to explore the text and interpret it however they think the evidence best supports. When it comes to Revelation, there are a number of different schools of thought. The one that this passage was referring to is called preterism. Now, it doesn't hold that everything in Revelation is in the past. There are still events from chapters 20 forward that are still in our future in Revelation, but it holds that the bulk of the material in Revelation does pertain to the early church and the early persecutions of the church. I recently did an episode of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, where I went through the different major theories, and personally, I'm a preterist. I think that's what the evidence supports. But you can access that episode by going to mysterious.fm/408, because it's episode 408. I went through all the different major schools, talked about the evidence for and against them. And you can also go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jimmy Akin. And in the search feature for my channel, not for YouTube as a whole, but for my channel, type in Revelation, or scroll through the Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World playlist, and you'll find that episode. It just came out last month in March, so it's easy to find. And I go through the major theories and, talk about here's why people would believe this, and then here's evidence that might go against this theory. And I ultimately conclude that preterism, or the idea that most of Revelation is about the early church, is the view that's best supported by the evidence. That's not official Catholic teaching, though, but it is a very common scholarly opinion. It also has some support in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which speaks of how many of the early saints were persecuted by the beast of Revelation, which would place the beast of Revelation in our past.
We're going to leave it there because we are coming up near the break, and it's a perfect time. We take a couple minutes break at the bottom of the hour here, and it's a perfect time to call and help us stay on the air for the next 3 months. And 12 lines are open, 4 lines are full. We've had a good number of folks calling, and we're very grateful for that. But we've got, as we get to the bottom of the hour, we'll be nearing the halfway mark, and we're not at the halfway mark as far as funds raised this hour. If we can raise the $20,000 this hour, we're on track, and we have a $20,000 dollar for dollar match. So every gift in any amount is matched up to $20,000. It'll be matched again if it's a one-time gift of $500 or more, and separately if it's a one-time gift of, if it's a recurring gift of $20 or more, that is a monthly pledge that of $20 or more, that will also be met with a second match. So 2 different second matches, one for $500 one time and one for $20 a month. So either of those, you can have your money tripled right now and help us to be fully funded for the next 3 months. 888-291-8000.
Quick update, we're about 40% of the way to our goal. We're 50% of the way through the hour. We need to hear from you. Now's a great time to call. You won't miss anything. 888-291-8000.
Catholic Answers Live would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners in airing our daily program. Please support the stations and networks that carry us each day, ensuring that we have a platform for broadcasting the show. And please bear in mind that while we do not have to pay for airtime on our affiliate stations, neither do they contribute to the operating costs we incur. It's a great relationship, but it requires that we turn to you, our devoted listeners, for your prayers and financial support to cover our ever-growing expenses. Please call 888-291-8000 right now and help to keep Catholic Answers Live strong. That's 888-291-8000. Or you can donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. What began as a humble 1-hour daily show that was carried by 4 radio stations has, with the generosity of many fantastic people like you, blossomed into a 2-hour broadcast heard on hundreds of AM and FM stations, the internet, Sirius XM radio, Facebook, YouTube, and via podcast. We don't make that possible. You do. We simply cannot continue this media mission without your most generous gift today. Call 888-291-8000 or log on to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and donate now. People tell us all the time how much they depend on Catholic Answers Live to help them better learn, live, and share their faith. What they're really saying is they depend on you for that. Will you come through for them right now? It only takes a couple of minutes to make a huge difference at 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Again, 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. No matter how much you give, be assured of our gratitude and know that God will richly bless you. Phone 888-291-8000 or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. It's important that you take this important step right now, today, to make sure that Catholic Answers Live is here tomorrow and for years to come. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Welcome back, Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Jimmy Akin is our guest. The Jimmy Akin podcast, the Mysterious World, Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World podcast. Very popular podcast. Jimmy does both of those. He's also author of many books, and he's got a wonderful new book out called it's called Evidence for Christ: How We Know That Jesus is the Messiah. Jimmy is our guest this hour, and it is Ask Him Anything. So let me give out that number just a couple times, and then we're going to give out a different number because we are in the midst of our pledge drive. If you have a question for Jimmy, whether you're Catholic or not, whether it's an advanced question, beginning level question, whatever, 888-318-7884. That will get you on the line get you in the line to ask Jimmy your question, 888-318-7884. When I say I'm going to be giving out the other number for the rest of this half hour, that is our pledge drive number. Each quarter, we come to you and ask to help us be fully funded for the next quarter. Your generous help is what makes it possible for us to give this program away to any radio station that wants to play it, any app that wants to play, anybody that wants to play it can have the show for free anywhere around the world. But it's not free to us. You pay for it. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful partnership for almost 30 years now. Folks have come through for us, made it possible, and we're asking for your help now to be fully funded, to continue to provide this show around the world. 888-291-8000.
And want to give people an update. We are now, based on the current numbers I'm looking at, we are 43% of the way towards our $20,000 goal for this hour. That's good. It's not quite where we need to be, though. We're just over 50% of the way through the hour, so we need to be at the 50% mark. We're only at the 43% mark. So we got a little bit of catching up to do, but we're not way behind. So if you give us a call at 888-291-8000, once again, 888-291-8000, and make your pledge, we should be able to catch up and end where we need to be for this hour. Also want to say thank you to some folks. Thora in Somerville, Texas, says she's sending $1,000. That'll become $3,000 for us. Joe and Mona from Nebraska say that have made a one-time gift of $1,000. That also becomes $3,000 to us. And Dennis from Lima, Ohio, has donated $500. That becomes $1,500 for us. So thank you very much to Thora, Joe, Mona, and Dennis. Also, we got a notification that Janusz from Poland gave his first ever gift to Catholic Answers of $100. We really appreciate that, and we appreciate support from international listeners. Now, I see Janusz here is in New York at the moment, but we've got listeners all over the world, and no matter where you are, you can support us. You may not be able to call our toll-free number, but you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and make your donation safely and securely from anywhere in the world at any time of day, even if you're listening to us on the podcast or on a YouTube video after the fact. It doesn't matter where you are, 24 hours a day. You can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and support us from anywhere on planet Earth or its near vicinity.
You're going to have to be near enough to make that phone call or connect to the internet, but please do. 888-291-8000, safe and secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com, or you can simply text the word Catholic to 24365. Wherever you go, out of those three options, it all goes to the same match, it goes to the same fund, it goes to the same place. There are 14 lines open. Let's see if we can get some folks to take advantage of that match for the $20 a month pledge or more. Anybody who can make a $20 a month or more pledge is being tripled right now, double matched. 888-291-8000. Could we fill up those 14 lines with $20 a month pledges or more? 888-291-8000. Here in studio, Jimmy, we've got the president of Catholic Answers, Chris Check. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Cy. Hello, Jimmy. 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000. My friends, there are 15 lines open and a lot of match money yet to meet before the end of the hour, so this is a great time to call. 15 lines open. Cy, I want to say a few things. Can I say a few things?
Yes,
it is your show. I want to ask for permission. Yeah, the first is I want to thank everyone who supported us so far.
Praise God. Yeah.
And not just on this drive, but as you said, for the nearly 30 years that this show has been in existence. This show, my friends, exists because of, yes, the talent of Cy Kellett, the decades of research of guys like Jimmy Akin, but it is broadcast because of your generosity. You pay for the bills to make it possible for us to broadcast it. And I'm sitting here in this magnificent studio. This is my second thing, Cy. Okay. So two. I think there's going to be a third one.
Okay, good.
This studio that we're in right now, which Edgar just did a magnificent job redesigning. I know he had some help from Jeff. This is so important that we have an aesthetically pleasing studio because so much of the broadcast now is going out over
video,
out by video. The great work of Luke Bender, who is, just a wizard at manipulating the YouTube algorithms and drawing.
He might be an actual wizard. I don't know what he does.
It is possible. 888-291-8000. 18 lines open, my friends. Just because I started talking doesn't mean you don't have to call in. 888-291-8000. So my point here, Cy, is that the support that people give us means, yes, a very talented host, apologists who have, altogether more than hundreds of years of research behind them, and hard work at mastering the craft. Also, and just Catholic Answers leads the way here with charity and joy. and a genuine love, desire to bring everyone to the fullness of the teaching of Jesus Christ.
Yep.
17 lines open, 888-291-8000. So this is my third thing
Okay.
for now.
For now, okay.
I want to invite everyone whose lives have been changed by this show and have never made a gift to call in now. 16 lines open, 888-291-8000. Every one of us has benefited, me personally, from this program. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to it because you continue to benefit from it. And yet, most of the people who listen do not support the show. They benefit from it. So, my friends, you want this benefit of this program that you have received to be passed along to millions and millions more. That is something you desire. And by the way, you should desire it as a Catholic or Christian. You should. 888-291-8000, 15 lines open. So if you have if you've benefited from this program, and I'm just going to say that's everybody listening, whether they know it or not, and you've benefited from this program and you have not made a gift, please call in now. Your gift is going to be, in some cases, tripled.
Yeah, yes, and I can explain that when you're go ahead.
888-291-8000. Let's get first-time givers to call in.
If you start a new monthly pledge of $20 or more, it'll be tripled. Or if you can make a one-time gift of $500 or more, it'll be tripled. Everybody's pledge is doubled till we use up that $20,000. 888-291-8000. Chris, I think I'll go head back to the phones and get Jimmy another call. But thank you very much. We're at 15 call lines open. We can fill those up right now. 888-291-8000.
And, an event we just had recently here in the life of the church was Easter. And Easter is when new people come into the church, for the most part. So I know there are a lot of new Catholics who have just come into the church, whether they were baptized before or not. We have a lot of new Catholics right now. A lot of them were aided on their journey by Catholic Answers Live. And it's not only them who benefit, it's also other people in their families. Because if you have someone in your family who just came into the church, whether it's a husband or a wife or a child or a parent, that brings extra spiritual unity to the family. So both the people who've just come into the church have benefited through Catholic Answers Live, and the people in their families and their friends have benefited even more broadly. So if you're one of those people, whether you yourself came into the church or whether you know someone who just came into the church and they were helped by Catholic Answers Live, now's your opportunity to pay that benefit forward, to help other people the same way that you were helped. And the way to do that is give us a call, 888-291-8000, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Once again, 888-291-8000. We've got 15 folks standing by waiting to take your call, so you won't have to wait, and we're making decent progress. I see that we had a $1,000 donation from B in Fremont, Nebraska. Want to thank her. That becomes $3,000 for us. Also, Gene in Omaha is sending a check for $250. He says he loves Jimmy and Cy's sense of humor and listens while he's mowing the lawn. So Cy and I are very glad to be able to lighten your lawn mowing duties. Just be careful. Don't get to laughing so hard that you trip and have an accident while you're mowing the lawn.
Maybe it's a ride-on mower. Maybe it's a ride-on mower.
And a giant lawn that it takes him 2 hours to mow. I hope so, Gene. Thanks very much. Look, we're down to 13 lines open now. 7 calls on, 888. Oh, now 9 calls on. Thank you. I'll tell you what, that lets me let Jimmy answer some questions.
Can I just say one more thing here, Cy?
Yeah, sure.
I want to underscore what Jimmy says about humor, because you are funny, and so is Jimmy. Humor is part of the way, and Joe, for example, humor is part of the way that we share the gospel. If we were boring and not engaging, we would draw fewer souls to Jesus Christ. Yeah. So I think that's part of the talent. That's part of the joy. That's part of the charity. That's part of the love. But a good sense of humor, that really undergirds good evangelization.
As does a nicely mowed lawn. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to Adam in Little Rock, Arkansas. Adam, thanks for the call. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy.
Hey, Thanks for taking my call. Big fan, by the way.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. So I'm recently actually a revert to the Catholic faith 2 years ago. Just got confirmed into the church.
Beautiful.
But
Awesome.
I've been on fire for the Lord, and basically these past 2 years have come about with some new challenges about being, bold in defending the faith and being proud of it. But I always get this same question from friends and family, and even like with experiences of I'm a single man and like dating women who are Christian but not Catholic, and just they tend to like get to the point where they always are like, you seem like you're too into it, like you're too into the weeds of being Catholic, like why does that matter? So I guess my question, like overall, is how do we as Catholics inform, like just non-Catholics, other Christians, like why it matters to be Catholic and in full communion, like with the church?
Okay, well, in basic terms, it matters because it's what Jesus wants. Jesus founded one church. He said, to St. Peter, on this rock, meaning St. Peter, I will build my church. So he's got one church, and it's been around since the first century because he says the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. The gates of Hades means the realm of the dead. So his church is never going to die. So it's still around. And we know it is built on St. Peter, and it has officers and laws. I've got a episode of the Jimmy Akin podcast where I go into this in detail if you go to my YouTube channel. But basically, it's the will of Jesus, and he wanted all of his followers to be united in his church. This is a theme that he stresses in his farewell discourse in John's Gospel on the night of the Last Supper. It's sometimes called his high priestly prayer in John 17, where he prays that all of his followers may be one. So this is the will of Christ, and that's the fundamental reason. So, encouraging people to learn about his church and join his church, which has been around since the first century, that's important simply because it's Christ's will, and thus it's God's will. Beyond that, though, there are benefits to being Catholic. You get the fullness of truth. Christ promised that he and the Holy Spirit would lead his church into a full understanding of truth. He also gives extra graces to people. In a Catholic context, you really screw up, you commit a mortal sin, you just go to confession. You have a clear knowledge of what you need to do and how to remedy the situation, and you can go and do it. But in a Protestant context, it's much more complex and much more ambiguous. You don't have the same easy access to grace that you do in Catholic circumstances. So I would posit three basic reasons why it's important that I would stress to someone who's not Catholic, but why it's important to be Catholic. Number one, it's Christ's will. And if you're a follower of Christ, then you ought to care about his will. Number two, it will get you a more accurate understanding of Christian teaching, and that'll help you get to heaven better than if you have a less accurate understanding. And third, it gives you greater access to God's grace, and that definitely makes it easier to get to heaven. So those are the three basic reasons I would propose to someone.
And I thank you for the call and leave it there because, as you heard, we are in the midst of our fundraising and we're getting close to raising the $20,000 this hour, just a couple thousand more, and we'll be there. Everyone who gives is being matched 100% up to that $20,000. So if you give 100 now, it's 200. If you give 1,000 now, it's 2,000. But there's a second match for two different categories. There's a second match for those who can give a $500 or more one-time gift. That means that is tripled. There's also a second match for those who can start a new monthly pledge of $20 or more. Your money is tripled. 18 lines open. Perfect time to call. 888-291-8000. I got to take this break. We'll be right back with more Catholic Answers Live.
There's only one Catholic Answers Live. One of the biggest mistakes a Christian can make is to try to do good without God's help. St. Therese said, when we trust only ourselves and not God, our soul becomes incapable of virtue. Her remedy? Works of charity. And the greatest work of charity is to share the gospel. At St. Paul Street Evangelization, a Catholic nonprofit, we encourage you to share the gospel with someone who doesn't know Jesus. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization, streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back. Catholic Answers Live. Jimmy Akin, our guest, and I got a little bit of good news for you, Jimmy. You said you wanted international pledges, or you mentioned international pledges. And
Yep.
I just wanted to tell you, Matthew from Antipolo in the Philippines just gave more than $500.
Praise God.
So, and that was tripled. And isn't that beautiful? Thanks for
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Jimmy, for reaching out to our international
Indeed.
listeners.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Really appreciate it. And to all of our other international listeners, you can do exactly what Matthew did. You can support this program too. We are not supported by the church. We are not supported by the state. We are supported by you. I know in some countries like Germany, the state collects, funds and supports the church. That doesn't happen here in America. We have separation of church and state here, and we don't take money from the church. So we are purely supported by the people who see the benefit that we're doing apostolically. And whatever country you're in, you can help support us and help keep this great programming coming to you and to people around the world. Just go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Once again, CatholicAnswersRadio.com from anywhere in the world or its near vicinity. If you're up on the International Space Station, you can get on the internet and help us out. I'd love to have our first off-planet donation. That's even more
coming,
exciting.
Jimmy. It's coming.
But we need help from listeners in all kinds of different countries. So CatholicAnswersRadio.com. If you're here in North America, it's even easier. You can just dial 888-291-8000. And we've got lots of folks. Let me check the exact number. We've got 12 folks who are sitting at their desks waiting to hear from you. They'll take your call. It doesn't take long at all. I'm told something like 90 seconds if you want to do it real fast. So please give us a call, 888-291-8000.
Christian?
Those calls go directly to the staff at Catholic Answers here in our building at 2020, and also to our staff members who are in various places around the country. It's not to some call center in a far-off part of the world. It's people who work every day, it's people in our customer service department, people in the marketing department, finance. Everybody is on the phones during drive. 888-291-8000. My friends, there are 12 lines open. Let's get that below 10. Let's get that into the single digits. We've got about, 8 minutes left in the hour
Yeah, 8
here.
minutes left, yeah.
888-291-8000. So I just want to say again, if you've benefited from something, imagine, my friends, if you went through a period in your life where you had food insecurity and you were able to avail yourself of a soup kitchen or something of this nature, or a food bank, and now you're back on your feet. And what would you want to do? You would want to make sure that that food bank continued to operate so other people who are hungry could eat and get back on their feet. How much more with divine grace, with the supernatural reality of divine grace, with the fullness of the truth, with the love and mercy of Jesus Christ,
Amen.
as Jimmy said in his last answer there, with the assurance that if you are in the state of mortal sin, you can go into a confessional anywhere and hear those words, "I absolve you of your sins." 888-291-8000. That, my friends, is something that you want to share because you have it and you want the rest of the world to have it. We have 10 lines open.
You said get it down to single digits. One more call and we're there. 888-291-8000.
And we do have a little ways to go this hour. We are very close to hitting the $20,000 goal, but we've got like 12 minutes left in this hour. So we do need to hear from you. Want to say thank you to Bill in Alabama, who gave a $500 gift. That becomes $1,500 for us. Also, Mary in San Antone gave a $500 gift. That becomes $1,500. And Thomas in Texas gave a $5,000 gift, which will become $15,000 for us.
Glory to
Thank
God.
you very much to all the people who are helping us get to the $20,000 matching goal. We do need to hear from you now soon. I'm hoping we'll take another call before the end of the hour, but once we get to the end of the hour, there will be several minutes for mandatory break. The FCC requires it, and you won't miss anything. So that's going to be an even better time to call. So 888-291-8000.
Chris got his wish. We're down to single digits now. 9 lines open. 888-291-8000.
Can we get it to 5? Let's get it to 5 lines open.
Let's do that while we take this call. Justin is in Sheridan Lakes, Colorado, listening on the Catholic Answers app. Justin, thank you so much for your patience. Go ahead with your question.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call. My question, Jimmy, has to do with apostolic authority. I am in the process of converting, and so I have many conversations with my anti-Catholic family. And in a conversation with my dad recently, I was trying to point out the necessity for apostolic authority in order to trust our interpretations of Scripture. And he made the claim that he had, maybe not exactly apostolic authority, but that he had the teaching of the apostles because he had the Bible. I guess,
And you'd like to know how to respond to that?
Yeah, I think I responded okay in the moment, but that's kind of the big thing to me is the necessity of authority.
Well, how would you respond,
So if you
Jimmy?
could,
Well, the first thing I do is I always try to acknowledge truth in someone's position, because that does a couple of things. One thing it does is it shows that I'm listening to the person, that I'm understanding their position, I'm sympathizing with their position, and I'm meeting them part way. So that's a good faith gesture that will help them listen to me better if I'm showing that I'm listening to them in good faith. The other thing that identifying truth in another person's position does is it marks out territory that we don't need to fight about. We can move on to have more productive discussions about other things. If we acknowledge what we agree on, then we don't have to argue about what we agree on. So in the case of what your father did, now it'd help me if I knew exactly what words he used, but basically I would acknowledge, okay, you do have apostolic teaching in the form of Scripture. That's good. That is a benefit. Those are, I'm not going to deny that. You've got a genuine treasure in the Bible. So that's good. But is that all we're supposed to have? And is that sufficient for what we're supposed to have? Because there's nothing in the Bible that says everything that the apostles taught got written in the Bible. And in fact, the historic position in Christianity has been that there is apostolic tradition from the apostles outside the Bible, and you're missing out on that. I recently did an episode of the Jimmy Akin podcast on 3 traditions that even Protestants accept that are apostolic in nature because they're not in the Bible. So I'd suggest checking out that video. The other thing is that I mentioned is it sufficient merely having the Bible? Well, it would seem not, because there are billions of Christians in the world, and they have a diversity of views. This is particularly true in the Protestant community. So just because you have the Bible doesn't mean that you're going to understand it correctly. And there have been all kinds of folks like Jehovah's Witnesses, and even within the Protestant community, people who understand the Bible in very different ways without an authorized interpreter. So do we have any evidence from the Bible that Jesus meant there to be an authorized interpreter for his word? And the answer is yes. Jesus talks about the Holy Spirit leading the disciples into all truth, and Jesus himself says in Matthew 28 that he will guide the church in its teaching till the end of the world. So that's a sketch of what I would say. I'm afraid I got to go. Now is the ideal time for folks to call in, 888-291-8000. We've got 15 lines open for you right now, and we need to hear from you. You won't miss anything. 888-291-8000.
If you're on your computer or phone, you can also go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, or simply text the word Catholic to 24365. It all goes to the same place. Looking forward to letting you know how we do when we count it all up right after this. When we come back, 888-291-8000. Right back with more Jimmy Akin on Catholic Answers Live. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Jimmy Akin is our guest. We've got lines open, actually. 4 lines open, as a matter of fact, which is rare when Jimmy is our guest. Maybe partly because I wasn't giving out the number very much last hour, but I'll give it out now, 888-318-7884. If you have a question, you're welcome to call, and you should not feel in any way excluded if you're not a believer or you're from a different faith, whatever. Everybody's welcome here if you've got a question. 888-318-7884. I will say this. We love talking about the Catholic faith. We love talking about the Bible, morals, all that stuff. And I don't know anybody who's more willing to just take whatever question comes. Jimmy, I can tell you this. We'll take your question seriously and give you the best possible answer. And we would love it if you would pick up that phone and come in. 888-318-7884. If we fill up those lines, that will allow us to do a little fundraising this hour as well. Jimmy?
And I want to just give people an update on where we are. We did make, not by a huge amount, but we did make our $20,000 match for last hour. So yay, all the people who called in, their money will be at least doubled, and for some it'll be tripled. We'll explain how that works again in just a moment for our new audience that came in at the top of the hour. But we did make the match last hour, but you know what that means, Psychedelic? It all resets.
Where's resetting?
Now? So we've got another $20,000 match for this hour, and it works the same way as last hour. Every dollar you give in or pledge in the next hour is going to be doubled. So if you give $100, it's going to become $200 to us. In addition to that, we have a second match, which is for people who give a one-time donation of $500 or more. That will be matched again. So if you give $500, it'll become $1,000 because of the initial match, and it'll become $1,500 because of the second match. So that's $500 becomes $1,500. It's tripled. Also, if you are not currently a supporter and you make a recurring pledge of $20 or more a month, then that will also be matched again. So $20 times 12 months is $240. Doubling that again because of the initial match, it'll become $480, but it's really going to be tripled, so it'll become $720. So if you can afford $20 a month, which loads of people can afford, that'll become almost $1,000 to us, $720. So please do give us a call. The number to call is 888-291-8000. We have 15 open lines for you to call, so it won't take long, but you just need to call the number 888-291-8000. You can also, from anywhere in the world, go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, and you can do that 24 hours a day if you're listening on delay, on podcast, on YouTube, and we're not currently doing the drive live. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even after the drive, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
A lot of excitement in the building here because all of your calls come right into this building, and we met that match first hour. That's exciting to start out with a good, solid first hour like that. So I'm going to go straight to the phones and let Jimmy answer some questions because I know that's what people would prefer. As Jimmy said, lots of lines open, so make that call, 888-291-8000, and get those matches. Let's go to Will in Alexandria, Virginia, watching on YouTube. Will, very grateful for your call. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
So when questions about the Septuagint, aside from the Martin Luther taking out the books and are there other doctrinal differences between Catholics and Protestants on the Septuagint?
Well, okay, saying Martin Luther took out the books from the Septuagint, it's a bit of an oversimplification, but long term, that is what happened. And you won't find the deuterocanonical books printed in a typical Protestant Bible today. The historical process is a little more complex than that. The Septuagint is not itself a matter of doctrine. It's a source of doctrine. because it contains doctrines. And there are some differences, most notably in Second Maccabees. It has a passage that has long been interpreted by Christians like Catholics and Orthodox, and even by Jews who don't regard it as scripture, as supporting prayer for the dead, which links up to the doctrine of purgatory. There, aside from the 7 books that are famous for not being in the Protestant Old Testament at all, there are also 2 books, Daniel and Esther, that have some passages in them. It's not the books Daniel and Esther are in the Protestant Old Testament, but in the Septuagint, or Greek translation of the Old Testament, they also contain some additional passages that aren't in the modern Protestant Old Testament. But these things tend not to impact doctrine directly, because there aren't a lot of doctrines that are based on just one passage. They tend to be echoed throughout different books of the Bible. And so the use of the Septuagint is not really a dividing point, except when it comes to the deuterocanonical books and passages. So Protestant scholars use the Septuagint too. Sometimes it contains better readings that are more original, or appear to be more original than the books of the Hebrew text. And so Protestant scholars use the Septuagint in their attempts to figure out the original text of the books of the Bible in the Old Testament, just like Catholic scholars do. In fact, they work on the same committees as part of the same organization. So the Septuagint itself is not really a source of much division, except when it comes to the 7 deuterocanonical books and passages from 2 other books. But the differences are primarily canonical, meaning do you consider these books canon, rather than theological. They don't impact teaching or belief so much.
I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you very much for the call. I will leave it there. We have 12 of our colleagues ready to take your calls right now. 4 are engaged, and that's very nice to see. We've got a long way to go, because we've got a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match this hour. The way it works here at Catholic Answers Live is we come to you each quarter and ask you to fund us for the next quarter. And that's only worked for about 30 years. So we've come to rely on you, depend on you. This is not something that can happen without you. I can tell you that. The money that is given goes directly into paying the electric bills and the technical people and all of us here to get this job done. And when you think about a couple $100,000 that we will try to raise each quarter, that will give dozens and scores and dozens more of, lots and lots and lots of hours of what we think is very high quality media. So it's an extraordinary bang for the buck. That goes all around the world. It reaches people in all conditions, people that are in prison, in hospitals, lots of people on the road, people at home. So your help is needed right now. If you could pick up that phone and call 888-291-8000. I really am going to try to let Jimmy answer as many questions as we can get to him today, if we can keep those lines going. We've got a long way to go, about almost $18,000 left of match money this hour. 888-291-8000.
And Psychedelic, I want to ask you in just a moment to tell us what thank yous we have for the people. But since you previewed a question without asking me the question last hour, I'm going to return the favor this hour. So I'm not asking you to do that yet. I wanted to mention, though, something I did mention last hour, which is in order to make our goals, now we need support at every level possible. That includes some higher gifts. And we were blessed to have some higher gifts last hour. We had some $500 gifts. We had some few $1,000 gifts. We even had one $5,000 gift. That's all awesome. It really helps, as do gifts on every level, all of which we appreciate. But one of the things I noted last hour is you may need to check before making a big gift. You may need to check with your banker. You may need to check with your stockbroker. You may need to check with your spouse. You may need to just make sure it's okay. Now, if you know it's okay, please, it'll help us if you can make that gift, those larger gifts now. But if you need to check, do the checking you need and be ready tomorrow or Thursday, because we will need to hear from you before the end of the drive. So just wanted to mention that. But we do want to also thank people who donate. So Psychedelic, tell us what thank you gifts we have available this time.
First-time donor in Pennsylvania, Dan, gave $25 plus the fees, and he loved Jimmy's explanation of dinosaurs. Thank you very much I did too, Dan. Thank you very much for that. $250 donation from Kevin in Washington. First time giving, and he joined the church this Easter. So Kevin, welcome home. Praise God.
He's paying it forward.
Yeah, and thank you very much for that. Hopefully many more souls will hear the fullness of the truth here, and many more will come into the church. But thank you for your support, Kevin. Jason in Wintersville, Ohio, which I'm told is near Steubenville, says his son always listens when they drive to Little League, and he donated $250 one time plus fees. He's a first-time donor. Jason, thank you. And Jason's son, thank you for joining us each day on the way to Little League. June from Maryland, a $500 gift plus fees. Now, we have brand new listeners and all that. She's been listening, she says, 15 to 20 years. Thank you, June. 888-291-8000.
Yeah. Now, Psychedelic, I previewed the question I was going to ask you, and then I asked you the question, and you didn't answer it. I'm guessing that might have been either because A, you were distracted, or B, I phrased it as an imperative rather than a question. I said, tell us about those, which is technically an imperative rather than a question. So let me put it as a question just so we're clear.
Okay.
Will you please tell us about the thank yous we have this time?
I totally thought you meant the people that I had to thank. That's the way I
know the thank you gifts.
The thank you gifts is what it's. Yes, I can do that, Jimmy. No problem. I thought you meant thank people. All right, so that was a misinterpretation.
No, thanking people is good too. It's just not what I was trying to set up.
I'll tell you what.
We want to thank people.
If you can come, we've told you about the matches, the $20,000 match that covers any gift in any amount this hour until we've used it up. A second match for anyone who can give a $500 one-time donation. A second match separately for anyone who can make a $20 a month pledge. But what if you can give a $50 one time? Well, we've got a beautiful new book, a topic I'm really glad someone has undertaken to write about, the Apostolic of Courtesy from Robert Grieving, How to Save Souls and Change the World Through the Power of Manners. And sometimes it seems like a lot of us have forgotten those. I know I have on many occasions. So manners, we'll be happy to send it to you. A $50 gift, and we'll send that to you.
Like if you're going to call people blind guides and hypocrites, say it with a smile.
Now, who would you be referring to? That, of course, would be Jesus. I'll tell you what, you need some evidence for Jesus? If you come in at the $500 level, that's called a segue. Evidence for Christ, the new book from Jimmy Akin, How We Know That Jesus is the Messiah. We'll give you the Apostolate of Courtesy, and we'll give you evidence for Christ at that $500 level. And remember, every gift of $500 or more is double match. The money is tripled right now, 888-291-8000. I will say this, we have a lot of lines waiting. Our colleagues take the afternoon off basically to sit by the phone. I'm sure they got their work with them, but their phone is set to answer your calls right now. And every call that is made comes into this building, and there are 15 people waiting for your calls right now, 888-291-8000. I think I got the right thank yous that time. Did I get that?
There you do.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right. How about we take a question, Jimmy, before we go back to the phones?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's go to Michael in New York watching on YouTube. Michael, welcome. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, hi. How you doing?
Michael.
I just had a question regarding the morality and use of AI, specifically generative AI. I know one common objection I see online is that because of the training models that they use, that some people tend to refer to it as stolen art. I know it's a common buzzword that's common. So what exactly would be the morality of using generative AI?
Okay.
Should that be something we should be concerned about?
Well, it's something that warrants a measure of concern, but it's also something that warrants a measure of flexibility. Now, anytime you have a significant technological development, what's called creative destruction happens in the marketplace. If someone's come up with a new and better way to do something, then it's going to harm some individuals, but it's also going to open up new opportunities and make life better. A classic example from the dawn of the 20th century is that's when cars were invented, and people found out that cars were better to use than horses. Well, what that meant is that all of the horse breeders ended up having to get a new line of work. Not all of them, but almost all of them had to get a new line of work, but still it was better to have cars available than just horses. You know, for example, if you have, if someone's having a heart attack, you can get them to the hospital quicker in a car than if you got to hitch up a buggy and get them in the buggy and get the buggy to the hospital and so forth. So cars made things better, but there was a cost to that. And we're looking at something similar with generative AI. There are new tasks, and not just generative AI, but AI is able to do some things in a way that is better than the way they've been done previously. And that means that we're in another transitional period that is similar to the one from horses to automobiles. And the goal is not to stop creative destruction from happening, because otherwise we'd still be back in the Paleolithic, the old Stone Age. If we didn't allow innovation and we didn't allow creative destruction, and we weren't willing to bear the costs associated with it, then there would be no progress, and we'd still be back at the dawn of human technology in the Paleolithic. So the goal is not to stop AI from being able to do things better. Now, AI has its own dangers, and we want to stop it from doing dangerous things. But if it's stuff like, help me with this research question, or paint me a pretty picture, or help me develop a song or something like that, well, there's nothing wrong in principle with that. And now it's the training models that AI uses are based on prior human work. But I think there are a couple of things to note here. The first one is current, and this has gone back for years and years and years. Current intellectual property law admits what's known as fair use, where you can take a concept from previous intellectual property and transform it in some way to generate new intellectual property. And that's what generative AI does. It doesn't just copy and paste from previous intellectual property that it's been trained on. It transforms previous intellectual property into a new form, which is in principle in line with the fair use provisions of U.S. copyright law. But we do want to make sure that people who have contributed work that's in the training models get compensated in a fair way. Now, the fact I just mentioned this is transformative means it's not purely stealing. You could argue that in a particular case, but all of the generative AI that I've seen is so transformational, I don't think that you could just call it stealing. I think that's an oversimplification. But for people who have contributed intellectual property to training models, I think there does need to be a way of making sure they're justly compensated. I don't think that means refusing to use generative AI. I think that I'm sure people who have traditionally produced intellectual property would like that, but I think that you can't just look to the interests of one set of people as opposed to society as a whole. Otherwise, like I said, we'd be back in the Paleolithic, and we'd still be using horses rather than automobiles if you just look to the interests of one set of people. But we do want to manage the transition in a way that is beneficial to as many people as possible. That can include compensation for people who contributed to training models, perhaps, for example, by giving them, a low-level royalty or something like that for a period of time. But I think that this area is so new and so in flux that the law hasn't yet had a chance to catch up, and how exactly this transition is to be managed will need to be worked out over a period of time as the law finally catches up with technology. So I would say for now, we've identified some valid concerns that need to be addressed in some fashion. How they should be addressed is going to take some time to work out. And taking a no AI ever, it's always, always, always direct theft from someone, that's a misrepresentation.
And thank you very much, Michael, for the question. I just want to let folks know where we are. We, in addition to taking calls and answering questions as we do every day, we're also trying to raise the money to be fully funded for the next 3 months. That's what we do each quarter, come to you and ask you for that funding. And we're about a quarter of the way to the $20,000 match for this hour, and we're getting close to halfway through the hour. So we need to pick that up a little bit if we're going to make it. You have always come through for us in the past, and so we have a great deal of confidence there. If you could pick up that phone and call, you're going to get one of 14 people who are just sitting waiting for your call right now, right here in our offices. If you'd like to be done quickly, just tell them you'd like that, and you can get done in about 90 seconds, 888-291-8000, or tell them your story. They love hearing your story of why you're supporting Catholic Answers, 888-291-8000.
So we're about a third of the way through this hour, and we're not quite a third of the way to our goal. So we're behind a little bit, but we're making progress. We need to make a little more progress, and you can help us do that by going to by calling 888-291-8000 or by going to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. You also, if you just have your phone with you and you don't want to call, you can text the word Catholic to the number 24365. Easy to remember because it's the number of hours in a day and the number of days in a typical year. So 24365. Text the word Catholic, and it'll hook you up with how to make a donation over your phone. We do need to hear from you, though. We have a lot of people who are just waiting to take your call. We have 13 of them who are currently waiting to take a call. Only 3 of our fellow Catholic Answers employees are actually on calls right now. So we got lots of lines open, but you can help fill them up. And we're going to be coming up in a few moments. Now, we're so close to the bottom of the hour break, we won't be able to take another call before the break comes, so you won't miss anything. That makes this a good time to give us a call, 888-291-8000. We're about 30% of the way towards our goal, but since we're coming up to the halfway mark, we need to get to 50%. So we need to get to the $10,000 mark, and we're not yet close to $10,000. We're only at $5,500. So please help us get to the halfway mark for this hour, at the halfway point in this hour. Otherwise, the last half hour is going to be really intense. We're going to have to do a lot of intense fundraising there if we don't hear from you now. But this is a great time to call. So call 888-291-8000. Let's see how many phone lines we can get filled up. Currently, we have 4 people on the phones and another 12 who are waiting to take your call. You can also go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or text the word Catholic to 24365. But we're coming up on the bottom of the hour here, and we really need to hear from you. So once again, 888-291-8000.
This hour, our goal is $20,000. If we meet our goal each hour, we'll have Catholic Answers funded for the next 3 months. Right now, we have a dollar-for-dollar match. Everything up to $20,000 is matched, and about, as Jimmy said, just about $15,000 of that left. That means every gift automatically doubled until we use up that money. But there's a second match. Any one-time gift of $500, or separately, if you can make a monthly pledge of $20 or more, we have donors who will match those pledges. So can you come in at the $500 level right now? 888-291-8000. It's $1,500 to us if you do. Could you start a new monthly pledge of $20 or more? Maybe 25, maybe 50. That will be tripled for us right now. 888-291-8000. We'd love to send you the books. As I mentioned, the $500 level. If you can come in at that $500 level, we're going to send you both books that we've got to give away. The Apostolic of Courtesy from Robert Grieving, and the brand new book from Jimmy Akin, Evidence for Christ, How We Know that Jesus is the Messiah. Pick up the phone and call now. Perfect time. As Jimmy said, we're going to be away for a couple minutes, so perfect time to call. 888-291-8000. Let's keep them busy in there. 888-291-8000. Catholic.
Will you do us a favor right now? Clear your mind of all other thoughts and reflect for just a moment on how Catholic Answers Live has made a difference in your life. Has our broadcast made your afternoon commute more meaningful? Perhaps you've learned how to explain the faith to family or friends in a more vibrant, convincing way. Something you heard here may have been just the thing you needed to look into joining or returning to the Catholic faith. All of these are serious reasons to be thankful, first and foremost to God, but also to all who have financially made it possible for us to air the show each day. Believe me, our gratitude could not be deeper. And we're coming to you today during our quarterly membership drive, asking you to join the ranks of the great people whose gifts and sacrifices have helped to turn around countless lives over the years, and, very possibly, helped make an eternal difference for many of them. Think about that for a moment. That's what your prayers and donations to Catholic Answers Live are doing. What a tremendous opportunity is being presented to you right now. Please don't let it pass you by. Call 888-291-8000 or visit CatholicAnswersRadio.com and let one of our fast, friendly customer service team members take your pledge. Large or small, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you call right now. Again, it's 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We're offering some great appreciation gifts that are sure to deepen your faith life even more. But what's best is you'll have the confidence that when you turn your radio on tomorrow, or next week, or 12 days from now, we'll be here, boldly and charitably presenting the truth to a world that's searching for precisely that. Your pledge is vital to keeping Catholic Answers Live on the air. Will you make the call today to 888-291-8000 or donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com? Thank you so much in advance. God bless you.
Welcome back, Catholic Answers Live. Let me just give you a little update. We're 1/3 of the way there. It says on my screen 33% of the way to using up a $20,000 dollar-for-dollar match this hour. 1/3 of our lines are currently full. We've got 18 of our colleagues ready to take your calls. 6 of them are engaged right now. Perfect time to call. 888-291-8000. And
Cy, I just want to add a point of context, because you said we are 33% of the way to our goal. But for folks to know whether that's good or bad, we also need to tell them how far we are into the hour. And we're halfway through the hour. So we're 1/3 of the way to our goal, but we're halfway through the hour. That means in the next half hour, we need to raise 2/3 of our goal.
Exactly.
So we really need to hear from folks. Give us a call at 888-291-8000. That's 888-291-8000, and we are going to need some larger gifts if we're going to make up that 2/3 in the next 30 minutes. Just being honest with folks, just telling you like it is. And here's someone else who tells it like it is, which is Chris Check.
Hey, Chris Check.
Yes, that's good to tell it like it is. I think Jesus wants us to do that. right? Let your yes
So
mean
does
yes.
Carlo. He always insists. No lying. He's always telling me.
Yeah,
no
I'm
lying.
with Carlo on that. Look, my friends, there are 11 lines open right now. The phone number is 888-291-8000. Let's get that. Now 12 lines. Let's get that below 10. Let's get it into single digits. 888-291-8000. I want to underscore and second what Jimmy said about large gifts. In the previous hour, we had a $5,000 gift and a few $1,000 gifts, and those are the ones that, had we not received those, then we might not have made our goal.
Right.
So we need to do that again in the second hour. So I want to make a special appeal to those of you who have been especially financially blessed. Maybe you've never supported Catholic Answers in the past. Maybe you've been supporting us for a long time. But this now is a good time to step forward with a 4 or even potentially 5-figure gift if you're capable of doing something like that, because of the extraordinary way that it's going to be matched. 5,000 becomes what, 15 or 10?
15,000.
That's 15,000 right now.
Okay,
yeah.
so that's crazy. That's
That
just
is crazy.
That's just so magnificent. And my friends, maybe
Crazy in a good way.
Yes, well, that's how the youth say it. That's crazy, right? That's how the youth. The youth.
Yeah.
888-291-8000. 11 lines open. So you may think, I don't want to put $5,000 on my credit card. That's great. All you need to do is call 888-291-8000 and say you want to send in a check, and we can send you an invoice for that or send you a postage paid envelope, and we can count that pledge towards the match because we believe that you're going to send it in. 888-291-8000. Here's another way, Cy, Jimmy, I know you guys, being the high-rolling investors that you are, have been watching this very carefully. The stock market is at an all-time high. And so many people listening, or some people listening, may be thinking, okay, well, I face a risk of capital gains here. We can accept gifts of securities, and you can avoid paying those capital gains taxes. And if you go to Catholic.com and hit the Give button, it explains to you how that can be done. Or simply call 888-291-8000, 888-291-8000, and say, I'd like to make a gift of appreciated securities to Catholic Answers, and someone will get in touch with you and walk you through that. That's another way to make a substantial gift. We also take all the cryptos, right?
Oh yeah, there is. We have a crypto. So Phil figured that out. We can take crypto now.
So yeah, exactly. So if you again, 888-291-8000, and we can walk you through that, or go to Catholic.com to the Give page, indicate that gift is for radio. So if you have appreciated Bitcoin or all the other ones,
since you're going to the digital money, I'll go the other direction. You can also give wheat.
we do have a fellow who gave us wheat. He actually gave us the monetary value of the wheat.
Okay, I see.
True.
All right.
888-291-8000. So if you've been especially financially blessed, I'm going to be straight with you, as Cy promised. God wants you to be generous. He wants you to be generous. 888-291-8000, and he wants you to use the gifts that he has given you, so that you can spread the gospel, so you can help us spread the gospel. 888-291-8000, 14 lines open, my friends. Please call.
Let me just go over the 3 ways to give real quick. 888-291-8000, the number we've been giving out. There's lots of folks that can take your call. Whether it's a large amount or small, they're happy to take the time with you. You can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com on your phone or computer. It'll get you there, and it meets the same matches and all of that. You also get to the same place if you just text the word Catholic to 24365. Catholic to 24365.
And I've got a couple of updates here, but first, when you and Chris were talking about how young people say things like crazy meaning good and so forth, did you say Utes?
Utes.
Excuse me, Your Honor? Excuse me? You know what he's referring to?
The Utes.
Yeah. Well, he's referring to what's up? My cousin Vinny. My cousin Vinny, yeah. Utes.
Okay. So, updates. Want to say a special thank you to Beth from Coppell, Texas, who donated $500. That's going to become $1,500 for us. Want to say thank you to Dick from El Paso, Texas, who gave $1,000. That's going to become $3,000 for us. And also want to say special thank you to Michael from Forest City, North Carolina, who also gave $1,000, which will also become $3,000. That's helping us make progress towards where we need to get this hour. We still, though, need to make about $12,000 in additional pledges. We're 40% of the way there, but we're more than 50% of the way. In fact, heading in towards 60% of the way through the hour. So we are behind. We need to make up another $12,000 in this hour. Please give us a call, 888-291-8000. Once again, 888-291-8000. And if you've got some Utes at home, let them know that they can call in too.
888-291-8000. Si, one more thing about someone who may want to make a substantial gift to Catholic Answers. If you've been listening to the show for a while and this idea appeals to you, you would like to see more and more people hear the great work of Catholic Answers Live and reach more and more souls with the gospel and the love and mercy of Jesus Christ and the grace of his sacraments, if that's something you desire, but you also say, a gift of $25,000, that's a lot of money. I would like to have some confidence that Catholic Answers is an efficient, well-run organization. Simply tell the person you call, 888-291-8000, I'd like the president, Chris Check, to give me a buzz and walk me through some numbers, or I would like to see your annual report, or I would like to look at your 990, or whatever it is. We're an open book here. We are an efficiently run organization. I'm proud to say that.
Yes.
And we do a lot with a small amount of money, 888-291-8000, and reach an extraordinary amount of people. If you could write a check for $10,000 and know that over YouTube and the airwaves and all the different and the social media that the work of Catholic Answers is going to be reaching millions of people, you would say that's a bargain.
Good deal.
That is a bargain. 888-291-8000, 9 lines open, 8 lines open.
There we go.
Let's get some $1,000 and $5,000 gifts in. 888-291-8000.
While you're dialing, let's let Jimmy answer some questions. We'll go to Buffalo, New York, where Rob is watching on YouTube. Rob, thank you so much for your patience. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy Akin.
Yeah, of course. So a friend and I, in a friendly debate, he, as you probably heard my Protestants say, the Pope has willy-nilly made up things throughout the years, ex cathedra, such as Mary being ever virgin, that kind of stuff. And he brought up the challenge question of what would happen in 2026. Oh, of course, but he brought up the question, what would happen in 2026 if the Pope were to try to proclaim something ex cathedra that is clearly against the faith, something outrageous, like Jesus is not divine. He's just like a Hercules-style son, or even try to undo something as the Mary doctrine. How would that be handled if the Pope were to do something so crazy as to proclaim ex cathedra, this is the new teaching? Is there contingency for that at all?
Okay, well, the question itself envisions the way it's being presented, it envisions an impossible situation. It's like saying, what if one day we discovered 2 + 2 = 5? It involves a logical contradiction. When the Pope speaks ex cathedra, that means he's speaking under the protection of infallibility. And two things that are infallible cannot contradict each other. So what could theoretically happen is if the Pope was speaking fallibly, not ex cathedra, but just, let's say he's flying on a plane and there's a bump and he's just gotten a sickness and he's not thinking quite properly, and he accidentally inserts the word "not" into a sentence, and he meant to say Jesus is God, but he had a slip of the tongue and said Jesus is not God. Well, okay, that's not an infallible declaration. So popes can make mistakes when they are not speaking infallibly, but they cannot make mistakes if they have triggered their infallibility. And so the question is like asking, well, what if Jesus himself came back? And he always speaks infallibly. But what if he came back and said, I'm not actually the Son of God. I'm not actually the Messiah. Well, that could never happen by definition. And Jesus shares his infallibility with the church in limited circumstances, one of which is when the Pope speaks ex cathedra. So the situation is, the question is envisioning a situation that by its definition cannot happen. Now, if something happened that looked like this, well, that would obviously trigger an enormous amount of concern and scrutiny to figure out where the problem was, because something obviously went wrong. This could not be either one of the two infallible statements has to be mistaken. It may have looked infallible, but it wasn't actually. And so there would be enormous attention focused on it to find out which statement was actually not infallible, because it's impossible for the situation to truly arise. It's like skeptics will often point out to Christians, including friends like your Protestant friend, that, this Bible passage looks like it contradicts this other Bible passage. Well, from a Christian point of view, they don't actually contradict each other. It's a question of understanding things more deeply to figure out how they actually harmonize. And the same thing would be true if you had a conflict between two apparent infallible statements of the church. It's equivalent to if you have a contradiction between two passages of the Bible, it can only be apparent. There must be some deeper problem there, and it's just a question of finding it.
And I'm going to say thank you for that question. We're trying to get we'll try to get everybody who's on the line their question answered today, but we do have to do a little bit of fundraising. We're getting close to being 50% of the way through our $20,000 dollar for dollar match this hour. Closer and closer, but we are not there yet. So as both Chris and Jimmy have said,
and we are 2/3 of the way through the hour now.
Just 18 minutes till the top of the hour now, and if we can raise a little more than 10,000, we'll be fully funded for this hour. As I said, if each hour makes its $20,000 goal, we're well on our way to being properly funded for the next 3 months. We just need your help to do it. We are asking for some of those who can make that $1,000, maybe even a $2,000 or $3,000, maybe a $5,000 gift. We still have plenty of match money for those, and so those are matched once with out of that $20,000 match, and then matched again by a generous donor who has said, "Hey, anybody gives $500 or more at one time, I'll match it in addition to the original match." So your money's being tripled right now. But we do need some folks to call with $1,000, $2,000, maybe even that $5,000 gift if we're going to make it this hour. 888-291-8000.
888-291-8000. 10 lines open. So I have a quick question for you. This new book by Robert Grieving, The Apostolic of Courtesy, what do I have to do to get this book?
$50.
$50. My friends,
$50 gift will send you the book.
This is an amazing book. And frankly, I'm kind of surprised that Catholic Answers, in its near 50-year existence, had not already come out with a book along this theme. Because courtesy, graciousness, charity, kindness, as Jimmy was saying in an answer to a question in the previous hour, beginning a conversation with finding common ground. I'm not saying the Catholic Answers are the only apologists or evangelizers who do this work so informed by charity. But this is a hallmark of the work that we do. And we hear it from supporters all the time and from people who have encountered our show, and we hear it about you, Psychedelics. It's very obvious to me, someone will say to me, that Psychedelics loves every single caller, as if it's the very first caller, someone said to me, that he's ever taken. 888-291-8000, 10 lines open. So one of the hallmarks of the voice at Catholic Answers is courtesy. It's graciousness. It's charity. Another hallmark of the voice of Catholic Answers, 888-291-8000, that we do proudly claim is that we are trusted. My friends, if you call Catholic Answers Live, or if you go to Catholic.com or avail yourself of the many media in which we're involved, you can have confidence that the answer you're going to get is going to be accurate, it's going to be thorough, and something outside, it's going to be accessible. It's going to be easy. Some things may take a little more effort than others, but it is going to be accessible to anyone willing to put the time into it. 888-291-8000. So these three things, accessibility, trustworthiness, charity. These are the hallmarks of the work that Catholic Answers does. And when you support, my friends, 7 lines open, 888-291-8000, with your generous gifts, you can be confident that the work that Catholic Answers does is going to continue because it is suffused with the graces of these 3 things.
I'll tell you what, Chris, while you were talking, we got down to $8,000 left to go. And
so I should keep talking.
And the phone lines kept ringing while you were talking. What are you're bringing the magic today,
888-291-8000.
Thanks to Peter in Glen Ullin, North Dakota, $500. That is tripled. 888-291-8000.
I also want to say thank you to Francis from Crosby, North Dakota, who also has given 500. Also, Andrew from Lawrence, New York, he's given 500. And Mary from Fenton, Missouri, who's given 1,200.
Thank you, Mary.
Those are all tripled for us. That's helping us make progress towards our goal. We've got a quarter of the hour left. We're 75% of the way through the hour. We're only 60% of the way to our goal, though, so we're still behind. We do need to hear from you. You talked about Chris bringing the magic, and I was fascinated by the linguistic magic he's doing because he's using a phenomenon on the sentence level that I'm familiar with on the word level. It's called an infix, where you insert one thing in the middle of another. Like abso-blanking-lutely. Only Chris is doing it with phone numbers and number of lines open. And he'll start a sentence and say, my friends, I just want to let you know, 888-291-8000, that you can help us by calling 7 lines open.
That's how it's done.
Right now, if you're able to call.
I'm glad I know what that's called. It's called an infix.
Yeah, and there was some pretty good infixing you were doing
that's
there.
That's what the Ute do. Infixing.
The Utes.
Utes, they do, only usually with the F word.
We're not going to do that.
I'll tell you what, for a $5,000 gift, we will. No, we will not. I'm only kidding. But I'll tell you what, a $5,000 gift would go a long way because we're under $8,000 now, and we can do this. We can meet the match this hour. That would be two hours in a row where we met the match, where we met the goal to start the pledge drive. That would be wonderful. I'm feeling so excited. I feel like I should just let Jimmy answer another question and let people call. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's get another question in here. 888-291-8000, safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Or if you've got a texter, just text the word Catholic to 24365. Back to the phones we go for Jimmy. And Benny is in Austin, Texas. I hope Austin is still weird, Benny. Glad to have you here.
It stays weird, and God loves a cheerful giver. It feels really good. If anybody's on the fence, just do it now.
Oh, Benny, God bless you. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
So,
look at that, 6 lines open.
And I wrote this out to make it succinct.
Okay.
So, some cultures and religions utilize hallucinogens or psychedelic drugs in the aid of spiritual communion. I'd like to nuance out the most licit use of it we can conceive as Catholics. How are we to understand the range and types of visions and spiritual experiences that are reported by the participants? Can we reduce all common recorded experiences to chemical similarity? Or is there any spiritual truth to what shamanic religions are reaching for?
Okay, so I guess one thing that I should point out, because if I don't, other people will, is we actually have a psychogenic substance that we use in Christianity, namely wine. But we are not allowed to use wine, which then becomes the blood of Christ. We're not allowed to use it to the point that it has a substantial impact on consciousness. Paul explicitly condemns getting drunk in a Eucharistic context. But some people, who may have some hostility towards the Christian faith will say, well, you use alcoholic wine. Yes, but it A, becomes the blood of Christ, and B, we're not allowed to use it to the point that it has a material effect on consciousness. So just to set that parameter. When it comes to looking at other religions that do use psychoactive substances for ritual purposes, I would say that there is truth in every religion. There's also falsehood in every religion other than Christianity. Now, God can use all kinds of things in unexpected ways to bring people to his truth. In fact, even in a Christian context, God sometimes uses the sin of one person to bring that person to faith. So I'm not saying that God could never say, let's say someone takes mescaline and they have a vision of Jesus Christ, and in the vision, Jesus tells them they need to become Christian. Well, I'm not going to say God can't do that. It's up to God what he does. So I'm prepared to say God might use psychedelic experiences to encourage spiritual growth and growth towards spiritual truth. But the question is this a reliable way of doing it? And just like alcohol is, if consumed in amounts that are sufficient to materially affect consciousness, it tends to degrade thinking. The same thing is true of these other substances like mescaline and ayahuasca and things like that. I'm not saying they don't have therapeutic uses, like they might be able to help someone with post-traumatic stress disorder or something. But in terms of religious truth, as part of religious ceremonies, I would say they are unproven. And while they can be, while God could use them to bring someone closer to him, they're very dangerous. They're more likely to be misleading by feeding bad data into the person's decision-making system. And so I plan to do a future mysterious world about psychedelic experiences, but to me, this has huge warning signs all over it, especially if you're using it for spirit to try to get spiritual truth. It would be like listening to any random dream you had at night and saying, oh, this preached the gospel to me. Well, God can use your dreams to preach the gospel to you, but most dreams aren't doing that. And in the same way, most psychedelic experiences aren't doing that.
Benny, I'm so grateful for the call. I hope you'll call back and follow that up. I'm not going to do it right now because we have to finish the show raising some money, but what a great question. And that's why when you got Jimmy Akin on your team, you're doing pretty good. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
That was a great answer.
That was just fantastic.
I just think about how infrequently I get to listen to the show because, it's during the workday and everything. But every now and then I'm on and like it's one of these really hit it out of the park questions. Great job, Jimmy.
Yeah.
All right, 88.
Thank you.
I'm going to infix now.
Yeah.
888-291-8000. Folks, we got a ways to go here and not a lot of time left.
888-291-8000. Go ahead. Sorry, Jimmy.
We need $5,600 in the next 8 minutes. And so now's a good time to call. You're not going to miss anything. We don't have time for another question. So please help us out right now. The number to call is 888-291-8000. Once again, 888-291-8000. Even after the show is off the air, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com from anywhere on earth. And you can also text the word Catholic to 24365. So we've got set it up to be really easy for you. There's multiple ways to contact us and help support the show. We currently have 11 people waiting by their phones to take your call, and they're going to stay here at Catholic Answers until the phones stop ringing. So just because we go off the air in a few minutes, that doesn't mean you can't call and help us get to our goal. You can still help us. We just need you to do it.
888-291-8000, 888-291-8000. 10 lines open, my friends. Let's get this down to 5 lines open. 888-291-8000. A special invitation to anyone who's been listening to the show for a while, or maybe you just discovered it and you were moved by it. It's changing your life because this show does change the lives of people. How does it do it? It brings them closer to the truth. It brings them closer to the love and mercy of Jesus Christ. 9 lines open. Let's get down to 5 lines open. 888-291-8000. You've just discovered the show. You've known it for a long time, but you've never made a gift. I am extending to you personal invitation from me. All first-time givers, I'm going to write a handwritten thank you note to. Please, 888-291-8000, 888-291-8000. Please call now.
This is some of the best interfixing we've ever had on the show today. So I think that's worth picking up the phone and calling 888-291-8000. I will tell you this, $5,000 does it right now. We are down to $5,000. So a few folks can do a 500, 1,000. Maybe we get that one $5,000 gift. That'll do it. 888-291-8000. Jimmy, a fantastic hour. Thank you.
Thank you. And please, folks, help us get that $20,000 matching money. One person could do it with $5,000. Give us a call now, 888-291-8000.
You can go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com all night, overnight. You can do that. You can text the word Catholic to 24365. Also, anytime you'd like, day or night, you can do that. But as for the phones, if you call in the next 10 minutes or so, somebody will be there to pick up. And they, as Jimmy said, they will continue to pick up until the calls stop. We're within $5,000 now of being fully funded for this hour. 888-291-8000.